Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, be sure to drop your thoughts, feelings, and lessons in the comments below. Like the video and subscribe so you never miss stories like this. Let's get into it. The cruelest thing Sienna Banks ever did was smirk at a rooftop table in downtown Phoenix. Look at me like I was a temporary option and say loud enough for everyone to hear, "My ex would have done it better," then laugh while her friends half laugh along. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I just watched her enjoy the moment. Like humiliating me was a party trick. Here's how it happened. My name is Jalen Mercer. I'm a black man who learned early that volume isn't the same thing as strength. I'm a mechanical engineer. Systems, tolerances, failure points. I like things that make sense. Sienna was the kind of woman who could light up a room without trying. Entrepreneur, always selling something, products, ideas herself. In public, she was sweet and proud of me. In private, she tested what she could get away with, like she was rubbing her thumb over a bruise to see if it still hurt. We met in Tempe at a coffee spot near the campus, the kind of place with cold brew on tap and playlists that tried too hard. I was waiting for a co-worker who was late. Sienna walked in wearing a bright sundress and confidence like perfume. She asked the barista a question, then turned and asked me, "You look like you know the answer. Is a matcha here actually good, or is it just green regret?" I laughed. It was easy. It felt like a soft door opening. Our first few weeks were simple and warm. Late-night tacos off Roosevelt Row. Random trips to Target where she judged my dad choices and socks. She'd tug my sleeve and whisper jokes while we stood in line, and I'd have to bite my lip to keep from laughing out loud. One night, I told her about a project at work, how a small design change could stop a whole system from overheating. She listened like it mattered. "See," she said, tapping my chest, "this brain is why I like you." She called me calm like it was a compliment. "You don't do all that extra," she'd say, leaning into me on her couch. "I can breathe around you." I believed her. I wanted to believe her. I'd been with women who loved drama, like oxygen. Sienna felt different, grown, polished, independent. She told me about her business, her pop-ups, how she wanted to scale. I respected it. I even admired it. At first, she made me feel like we were building parallel lives that could fit. The first crack was small, so small I could have ignored it. We were planning a dinner at a new spot in Scottsdale. She told me, "Make the reservation." I made it, confirmed it, even screenshot it, because I'm that kind of person. The night of, she showed up late, hair perfect, smile wide, and acted like the restaurant was the one being unreasonable for seating our table. In the car afterward, she said, "You didn't confirm. You always assume things work out." I didn't argue. I opened my phone and showed her the confirmation email. She stared at it for 2 seconds, then her face hardened. "So you're keeping receipts now?" she asked. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even a quiet, "my bad." It was a redirect, like the real problem was my proof, not her accusation. I said calmly, "You blamed me, Sienna." She shrugged like she didn't care. "Don't be sensitive," she said. "That's not attractive." I let it slide because the next day, she was sweet again. That was her pattern early, sharp, then sugary. She'd post a picture of us in her story with a caption like, "My man stays ready," and send me heart emojis. Then in private, she'd test me again. We'd be watching a movie, and she'd grab my phone out of nowhere. "Let me see something," she'd say like I owed her access. The first time, I laughed like it was playful. The second time, I asked her to stop. She didn't stop. She started checking my phone like a ritual. One night, I came out of the shower and found her sitting on my side of the bed, my phone in her hand, thumb moving fast. "Who's Kayla?" she asked without looking up. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were hunting. Kayla was a co-worker in a group chat about a failing pump assembly. I explained it. I even showed her the message thread. She didn't soften. "Engineers always act innocent," she said. "Y'all be the sneakiest." I stared at her for a moment, then said, "You're accusing me without proof." That should have ended it. It didn't. She leaned back and smiled like she caught me. "If you're so trustworthy, why are you defensive?" she asked. It was that kind of logic, circular, unfair, designed to keep me on trial. I didn't raise my voice. I took my phone back and said, "I'm not doing interrogations in my relationship." She rolled her eyes. "Okay, Mr. Boundary." The next trigger was my work. At first, she acted impressed. Then she started using it as a prop. She'd say things like, "I'm dating an engineer," in rooms full of people, like she was collecting a badge. But privately, she'd belittle it when she wanted to feel bigger. "Must be nice," she said one day while I was reviewing notes for a project, "to have a regular little job with a regular little paycheck." The way she said little hit like a flick to the forehead, small, insulting, meant to make me blink. I looked up and said, "Do you respect what I do?" She didn't answer directly. She walked past me and opened the fridge like it was funny. "I respect money," she said, "and ambition, and people who aren't scared to take risks." Then she glanced back at me. "Not people who hide behind titles." I let the words sit. I wasn't hiding. I was working. But in her mouth, my stability became cowardice. That was the beginning of her turning my strengths into weaknesses. Still, there were good moments, good enough to confuse me. We'd drive out near South Mountain and watch the sunset, her feet on the dashboard, her laugh soft when she told stories about her childhood in Atlanta before her family moved. She'd tease me for being organized, calling me Mr. Spreadsheet. I'd tease her for buying planners she never used. We'd dance in her kitchen to old R&B while she cooked pasta, and she'd pull me close and say, "You feel safe." Those moments were real. That's what made the disrespect feel unreal. Then Kendrick entered our relationship like a ghost she refused to bury. She mentioned him in casual ways at first. "Kendrick used to love this restaurant." Kendrick hates when people chew loudly. Little statements that didn't need to be said, but she said them anyway. One night, she showed me a photo on her phone. Her and Kendrick dressed up at some event. "We look good," she said. I nodded. "You did." She tilted her head. He always knew how to make me feel chosen. That sentence sat in my chest longer than it should have. "Are you still talking to him?" I asked. She sighed like I was annoying. "We're cool," she said. "We're mature." Then she added, "Don't be one of those insecure men who can't handle a woman with history." There it was, weaponizing insecurities. If I asked a reasonable question, I became insecure. If I needed respect, I became needy. She had a way of flipping the burden back onto me until I had to defend, wanting basic decency. The first public disrespect happened at a small pop-up event she hosted in Mesa. I came after work, still in my button-down, still smelling like the shop floor and clean soap. She was glowing, moving fast, hugging people, taking pictures. When she saw me, she smiled wide, public Sienna. "Babe," she called, and her friends turned. She kissed my cheek and whispered, "Try to look happier. I need you to match my brand." Then she laughed like it was cute and walked away. I stood there for a second, then exhaled slowly. I wasn't her brand. I was her partner. But I didn't ruin her event. I bought a few items, talked to her aunt, and stayed supportive. On the ride home, I said, "Don't talk to me like I'm an accessory." She stared out the window. "Oh my God," she said, "you're so dramatic." It was a joke. When I didn't laugh, she added, "Kendrick never took things so personally." Like that was the benchmark I was supposed to chase. The financial expectations crept in next. "Babe, just cover it," became normal. Gas, brunch, last-minute business supplies. "I'll pay you back after the pop-up," she'd promise. After becoming a moving target. When I asked about it calmly, she acted wounded. "So you're counting?" she asked, hand on her chest like I'd insulted her soul. "I thought you were a provider type." Provider type, like love, was a role I auditioned for, and she was the director deciding if I deserved a part. One afternoon, she showed me a bag of new inventory and said, "I need you to front me for this." I asked how much. She named a number that made my eyebrows lift. I didn't scold her. I asked, "What's your plan to repay?" Her face hardened. "Why are you grilling me?" she snapped. "You make good money. Why are you acting broke?" I replied, "I'm not acting broke. I'm acting responsible." She laughed once, cruel. Responsible is just another word for scared. Her friends started getting comfortable disrespecting me too. Her friend Tasha would say things like, "Jalen is quiet." Like, "You even got a personality?" And Sienna would laugh like it was adorable. Another friend, Malik, would clap me on the shoulder and say, "Don't let Sienna run you, bro," like I was a child. The worst part wasn't their words. It was Sienna's enjoyment. She didn't defend me. She fed them permission. Sometimes she'd glance at me while they joked, like she was measuring my reaction for entertainment. I tried a calm conversation one night in her living room. "I'm not asking you to worship me," I said. "I'm asking you to respect me." She sat cross-legged on the couch, scrolling on her phone, barely looking up. "Respect is earned," she said. I nodded. "Okay, what have I done that says I don't deserve it?" She smirked. "You're always trying to talk like you're in a meeting." Then she added, "It's exhausting." Kendrick would just handle things. That was her threat pattern too. Replace me, leave me, do better. It came out whenever she didn't get her way. If I said no to paying for something, she'd say, "I can get a man who loves spoiling me." If I asked her to stop checking my phone, she'd say, "Fine, maybe I should be with someone who doesn't have secrets." If I wanted peace, she'd call it control. If I wanted honesty, she'd call it insecurity. And always, hovering behind her words, was Kendrick like a shadow she held up to block my light. There were moments when she'd soften, brief, confusing moments that felt like the woman I met in Tempe. After an argument, she'd crawl into my lap and say, "I just don't want to lose you." She'd kiss my neck and whisper, "You know I'm intense." I'd hold her and think, maybe she's just stressed. Maybe her business pressure makes her sharp. Maybe I'm being too rigid. That's how it works. Your mind builds excuses to protect your heart from the truth. The truth showed itself in small scenes. Like the time she criticized my car, my paid-off, reliable car, because it wasn't luxury. "You're an engineer," she said, wrinkling her nose. "Why are you driving this?" I replied, "Because it works." She laughed. "You're so boring." Or the time she found an old photo on my Instagram of me with my college girlfriend and said, "Ah, you used to be chubby. That's cute." I stared at her. She smiled sweetly. "Don't be sensitive, Jalen. I'm motivating you." She loved that word, sensitive. It was her weapon of choice. If my feelings were hurt, I was sensitive. If I wanted boundaries, I was sensitive. If I didn't laugh at disrespect, I was sensitive. Meanwhile, she could be offended by a tone, a pause, a glance. She could demand reassurance on command. She could turn a misunderstanding into a week-long punishment. And if I asked for fairness, she'd say, "You're not a victim," like I was trying to steal sympathy instead of asking for basic partnership. The phone accusations got worse. One night at my place in Phoenix, she woke me up at 2 a.m. by shoving my phone in my face. "Who is this?" she whispered, eyes wild. It was a calendar notification. Project review, 8:30 a.m. I blinked, then looked at her. "Sienna," I said quietly, "you woke me up for a calendar reminder." She didn't apologize. She sat back and crossed her arms. "It's weird that you're not mad," she said. "It makes me think you're hiding something." That's when I realized she didn't want peace. She wanted power. She wanted me off balance, trying to prove myself. Calm didn't satisfy her. It threatened her. If I didn't react, she escalated. If I did react, she blamed me. It was a trap with two doors leading to the same room. So I started observing like an engineer. Pattern, trigger, outcome. I started taking mental notes. Not for revenge, just for clarity. When your heart is confused, facts can act like a flashlight. Around that time, she began calling me low effort in arguments, even though I was the one showing up, paying, planning, and staying consistent. "You don't romance me," she'd say. I'd remind her of the weekend trip I planned to Sedona, the dinner I cooked, the way I supported her pop-ups. She'd wave her hand. "That's regular," she said. "Kendrick used to surprise me." I asked, "Then why aren't you with Kendrick?" She smiled like she had a secret. "Because Kendrick is complicated," she said. "But he's a man." That sentence turned my stomach. Not because of Kendrick, because of what she implied about me. Like my calmness made me less of a man. Like my stability made me weak. Like gentleness was something to be mocked. I didn't explode. I simply said, "Don't talk to me like that." She stared at me, then laughed. "Or what?" she asked. "You'll leave? Please. You need me." That was her other favorite trick, convincing me I was lucky she tolerated me. The rooftop dinner that ended everything didn't come out of nowhere. It was the final rung on a ladder she'd been building. That week, she invited me to meet her friends for drinks in downtown Phoenix. "Be cool," she texted. "Don't embarrass me." I stared at the message for a long second. I wasn't the embarrassing one, but I didn't argue through text. I just replied, "Okay." Calm, short, controlled. Before we left, she spent an hour getting ready, taking selfies, changing outfits, asking me, which one makes me look expensive? When I answered honestly, she rolled her eyes. You don't know fashion, she said. Kendrick always had an eye. Then she added, almost casually, he might meet us later. Don't make it weird. I looked at her. Your ex is meeting us? She shrugged. We're grown. It's not a big deal. Then she smiled. Unless you're insecure. At the rooftop, the air was warm and the city lights looked like scattered coins. Sienna was on her best behavior at first, laughing, touching my arm, calling me babe in that sweet public voice. Her friends asked about my work. I answered politely. They asked about her business. She performed. Then, as drinks flowed, she started sliding into private Sienna, little digs disguised as jokes. Jalen is smart, but he's kind of basic, she said, laughing. Like he's allergic to risk. Her friends chuckled. I kept my face neutral because I knew something by then. Reacting emotionally was a gift to her. She liked it. She fed on it. The more composed I stayed, the more she worked to crack it. She started telling a story about a time I didn't want to go to a last-minute event because I had work early. He's like an old man, she said. Kendrick would have just come. He'd show up for me. She paused, eyes bright. Right, Kendrick? She said, scanning the crowd like he might appear on cue. Kendrick didn't show, but her attention didn't need him to hurt me. She turned to me and asked, Babe, why are you so quiet? I said, I'm listening. She laughed. No, you're sulking, she said. Don't do that. It's embarrassing. Her friends leaned in, interested. Then she held up her wrist and said, Fix my bracelet. I reached across the table and adjusted the clasp. Small, simple. That's when she smirked and delivered the line that ended us. My ex would have done it better. Her laugh was light, like she'd said something harmless. The table laughed with her, nervous, practiced laughter. I didn't flinch. I looked at her wrist, then at her face. She wanted a reaction. She wanted me to snap. She wanted me to plead. I just nodded once, slowly, like I understood a final detail. Then I sat back, finished my water, and let the silence do what my anger refused to do, make the moment undeniable. Later, in the parking garage, she tried to act like nothing happened. Why are you walking like that? She asked, heels clicking behind me. I said, like what? She huffed. Like you mad. I looked at her and said, You disrespected me in public. She rolled her eyes. Oh my God, it was a joke. I replied, It wasn't funny. She smirked again. You're so fragile, she said. I need a man, Jalen, not a lecture. In the car, she tried the threats. If you can't handle me, I'll find someone who can, she said, scrolling her phone like I bored her. Then she added, Don't think you're irreplaceable. I drove quietly. My hand stayed steady on the wheel. My voice stayed low. You're right, I said. She glanced at me, surprised. She expected an argument. Instead, I gave her agreement. That confused her more than any yelling would have. What's that supposed to mean? She asked. I said, It means you should do what you want. When we got to her apartment, she changed personalities fast, sweet voice, fake concern. Babe, come on, she said, touching my arm. Don't be like this. You know I'm playful. I looked at her hand on my sleeve and felt nothing. Not hatred, not love, just clarity. I'm going home, I said. She stepped in front of the door. No, you're not, she said, smiling. We're not ending our night over a joke. I said, move. The smile dropped. Wow, she whispered. Kendrick would never. That night, I didn't sleep much. Not because of heartbreak, because of calculation. Calm, observant, moving smart. I thought about every place my life had tangled with hers. The shared streaming accounts, the spare key she had in my place, the way she'd used my name in business conversations, the time she'd casually asked about my credit, and how engineers get approved so easily. I also thought about the way she handled being wrong, never apologizing, always flipping it. I realized something simple. If I stayed, I'd be volunteering for disrespect. Over the next few days, I didn't announce my plan. I just executed it. I changed my passwords. I removed her Face ID access from devices she'd borrowed. I moved anything important, documents, spare cards, my grandfather's watch, into a safe place. I updated my building office on who was allowed access. I didn't do it dramatically. I did it quietly. Meanwhile, Sienna acted like the rooftop incident was already erased. She sent me selfies. She posted quotes about strong women who don't settle. Then she'd text, "You still mad?" Like respect was a mood. The next escalation came when she tried to pull her people in. Her Aunt Rochelle called me and said, "Baby, Sienna said y'all had a misunderstanding." I kept my voice polite. "It wasn't a misunderstanding," I said. "It was disrespectful." Rochelle sighed. "You know she has a big personality." I replied, "Big doesn't mean cruel." Rochelle got quiet, then said, "Well, don't punish her. Men always want to humble a woman." I said, calmly, "I'm not humbling her. I'm leaving." Rochelle gasped like I'd threatened a crime. Sienna called right after. "So you're telling my aunt you're leaving me?" she snapped. I said yes. She laughed, sharp and mean. "You're not leaving," she said. "You're not that guy." I waited for a beat and asked, "Are you done?" She hissed, "You think you're special because you got a little engineer job?" Little again. Then she said the line she used when she wanted to hurt me fast. "I can replace you by the weekend." I replied, "I believe you'll try," and ended the call. The business angle was the part she didn't expect me to touch. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I refused to be used. She'd been telling people I was the engineering lead behind a product idea she wanted to pitch, a compact, stylish home device with patent-pending language attached to it. She'd asked me months earlier for feedback on a concept. I'd sketched a few thoughts, explained safety concerns, told her what would and wouldn't work. She smiled and said, "See, you're so useful." I didn't like how she said it, but I focused on the work. Then she sent me a pitch deck late one night. "Look at this and send notes," she texted. "Don't take forever." Kendrick used to respond fast. I opened it and felt my jaw tighten, not in anger and recognition. My sketches were there. My language. Even a photo of a test rig from my garage days, cropped to remove my hands. Slides claimed partnerships that didn't exist. Claims about safety certification that hadn't happened. And right there, bold on a page labeled team, Jalen Mercer, mechanical engineer / product development. Like I'd signed a contract I'd never seen. I didn't call her screaming. I didn't send paragraphs. I did what I do at work when something is incorrect. I documented and clarified. The pitch invite listed an investor contact, Marcus Hightower, with a professional email. I wrote one calm message. I introduced myself, explained I wasn't affiliated with the proposal, and stated I hadn't authorized use of my work or name. No insults, no emotional language, just a boundary. Then I saved a copy for my records and closed my laptop. My pulse stayed steady. It felt like stepping out of a room full of smoke. 2 days later, Sienna texted me like everything was normal. "Come over tonight," she wrote. "We can reset." I replied, "I'm packing." She sent a laughing emoji. "Stop," she wrote. "You're being dramatic." That word again. Dramatic. Like leaving disrespect was theater. That night, I went to her place with boxes. Not to argue, to retrieve my things and return what was hers. She opened the door in a satin robe, hair perfect, smile ready. Public Sienna again. "Babe," she said softly, "you're really doing this?" "Yes," I said. I stepped inside, looked around, and noticed how much of me had been absorbed into her space. My hoodie on her chair, my mug in her sink, my spare chargers on her table. She leaned against the counter and watched me like I was a show. "So this is because I joked?" she asked, voice sugary. I didn't play the game. "It's because of a pattern," I said. "The jokes, the accusations, the comparisons, the disrespect." She tilted her head. "You're so serious," she said. "It's a turnoff." I kept packing. She tried a different tactic, seduction. "Come here," she said, stepping close, fingers on my chest. "You know you love me." I gently moved her hand away. Not rough, not angry, just final. Her eyes narrowed. "Wow," she whispered. "So you're punishing me." I looked at her and said, "I'm protecting myself." She scoffed. "Kendrick would never treat me like this." I replied, "Then go be with Kendrick." The silence that followed felt heavy, like she wasn't used to someone handing her back her own words. That's when she snapped. "You think you're better than me?" she shouted, voice finally matching her private self. "You're not. You're boring. You're predictable." I kept folding shirts. "Sienna, I said calmly. I'm not here to debate my worth. She grabbed her phone and started recording, then stopped when she realized there was nothing dramatic to capture. No yelling, no insults, just me packing. Her face twisted with frustration. You're cold, she spat. I said no. I'm clear. My phone started buzzing as soon as I left. Tasha, Malik, Aunt Rochelle, even a number I didn't recognize. Then a text. This Kendrick. You're weird for emailing that man. I stared at it and felt something settle in me. Kendrick wasn't a ghost. He was real, and he was close enough to speak for her. That meant the comparisons weren't just emotional weapons. They were active ties. I didn't respond to Kendrick. I didn't explain myself. I just blocked the number. You can't reason with people who think access is entitlement. The next afternoon, Sienna called. Her voice sounded different, tight, shaky, not performative. What did you do? She asked. I didn't do anything, I replied. Don't play with me, Jalen, she hissed. They canceled my meeting. I leaned against the wall of my new place in Midtown Phoenix and listened. She kept talking, words stumbling. So my deck had unverified claims. They said they can't work with someone who misrepresents partnerships. Jalen, why would you do that to me? I let a beat pass. Then I said, you did it to you. She went quiet like she wasn't used to accountability. I was going to fix it, she said quickly. I was going to tell them you were involved. I replied, you already told them. Her breath hitched. So you ruined my business, she snapped, trying to turn it back into a villain story. I kept my tone even. I clarified my name. I said, that's all. She whispered, you're petty. I said no. I'm accurate. She tried to bargain. Okay, she said, suddenly soft. Just talk to Marcus. Tell him you overreacted. Tell him you're with me. I laughed once. Not cruel, just disbelieving. So you can keep using me, I said. She snapped back. Don't make it sound like that. I replied, then what is it? Silence. Then she said, small and sharp, you're really going to leave me when I need you? I answered, you needed respect first. That night, she showed up at my building lobby. I didn't invite her. The front desk called and asked if I wanted to let her up. I said no. I went downstairs anyway, not to negotiate, but to end it cleanly. She stood by the glass doors looking like a perfect Instagram post. Coat fitted, makeup flawless, eyes bright with anger. So you're really acting like I'm nothing? She demanded. I said, I'm acting like I'm done. Her lip curled. You'll regret this, she said. You'll miss me. I looked at her for a long second and saw the truth without emotion. She wanted to be missed more than she wanted to be loved well. You don't miss people you respect, I said quietly. You miss control. Her eyes widened like I'd slapped her. Then she threw her last threat like a dart. Kendrick is already here for me, she said. He's a real man. I nodded once. Good, I said. Then you're not alone. She stood there, waiting for me to break. I didn't. Weeks passed. I heard through the grapevine. Phoenix is big, but circles are small. That her investor interest dried up. Not because I attacked her. Because her story didn't hold up when people asked basic questions. She'd built her pitch on borrowed credibility and bold claims. When one brick got pulled, the wall showed its cracks. She didn't go viral. She didn't get publicly dragged. There was no dramatic courtroom scene. Just quiet doors closing. Meetings not returned. Emails unanswered. Opportunities moving on without her. She texted once more late at night. I didn't think you'd really leave. I stared at the message. Part of me wanted to ask why not, but I didn't. I replied with one sentence. I left when I realized you didn't like me. Just what you could get from me. She typed for a while, then sent whatever. No apology. No ownership. Just dismissal. That was all the closure I needed. A person who refuses to apologize is telling you exactly who they plan to be. Now my life is quieter in the best way. I go to work. I lift on weekends. I take myself to dinner sometimes and sit at the bar without rushing. I don't check my phone every 5 seconds looking for peace from someone who treats it like a bargaining chip. I don't flinch when a woman laughs too hard at my calm. I simply noticed. And when I think of Sienna, of that rooftop smirk, of her friend's laughter, I don't feel rage. I feel grateful that I packed. I left. I stayed gone. If you made it to the end, you just watch what real self-respect looks like. No screaming, no begging, just boundaries. Hit like if you believe peace is a flex. Subscribe for more real stories where the calm person finally chooses themselves. And comment on your location. I'm picking the most mentioned place for a dedicated story set in your city next. The end.